EG, it not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
We're working to connect a region of over 600 cultural bridges between our lands.
Hello, Malma Angeles. Welcome to ASEAN in Focus. We're coming to you live from Manila and Vietnam. Hello, Charlene.
Hello, Alma. I'm Charlene Navaja, bringing you the latest news in the dynamic ASEAN region.
On today's headlines.
Bridges between our
do know that
The World Health Organization's representative in the Philippines confirmed there is now a community transmission of the more contagious Delta variant in the country.
We saw
An elderly Filipina and a Filipino theater actor were the latest victims of anti-Asian hate in the United States, the Philippine Consulate General in New York reported.
The family of U.S. journalist Danny Fenster appealed for his release by Myanmar authorities as they marked his 100th day of imprisonment by the Yangon military regime.
And the Taliban may reimpose its more extremist ideas and try to stop Afghans from leaving after the United States completed its withdrawal, according to a Singaporean analyst.
Because I think a lot of the people who are probably leaving.
First, here in the country, World Health Organization's representative confirmed there is now a community transmission of the more contagious Delta variant in the Philippines. It is also now the dominant coronavirus variant in the country based on limited whole genome sequencing. Let's listen in.
do know that the Delta variant spreads very fast, is more transmissible, has a shorter incubation period. And so, yes, with this kind of transmission, with these kinds of numbers, we are in community transmission with the Delta variant.
Since its detection in July, the Delta variant cases, these are the orange bars, showed steady increase and has already replaced the beta, the red-orange bars, and the alpha, which are the red bars, variants as the most common lineage detected on each sequencing run. This coincides with the start of a steeper rise in the number of cases in July, similar to what we saw previously at the start of our April peak in cases with the spread of the alpha and the beta variants. Next slide. Also, we saw a 20% increase in the samples being tested in the recent week versus the first week of August, from an average of just 56,179 tests per day. We are now averaging 67,692 cases per day. Looking at which areas are contributing to the national increase, we have observed that while the increase in cases were from the NCR plus areas last March to April, the current increases were observed in all island groups at almost the same time. But the rate of increase was fastest in the NCR plus and the rest of Luzon areas. Isang taong may sakit na COVID-19 at variant niya ay Delta, siya ay maaaring makapanghawa mula 5 hanggang 8 tao. Kaya pag tinignan natin ngayon ang pagtaas ng kaso, napakabilis because exponential ang kanyang increase. Kasi kung halimbawa, meron ka lang sabihin mo na 5 positive patients doon sa inyong lugar, kapag nakapanghawa siya, you will multiply that already by 5 or 8, no? Up to 8. So ganun kadami ang i-infect sa bawat araw na nakakapanghawa-hawaan. So ano ba ang kailangan natin lahat gawin? Aside from preparing our healthcare system, kailangan putulin natin yung transmission. Putulin ang transmission doon sa pinagmumula ng transmission. At ito po ay ang ating mga komunidad. That's why we are recommending that we do granular lockdowns para po doon pa lang sa community, pinuputol na natin ang transmission ng kaso and therefore, maari po natin mapababa ang mga taong nangangailangan ng ospital at hindi po ma-overwhelm ang ating healthcare system.
The Philippines has extended anew the travel ban from India and 9 other countries until September 5 to prevent and slow down the spread of COVID-19, Malacanang said on Tuesday. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque made the statement after health authorities recorded 22,366 fresh cases of COVID-19, the country's highest ever tally in the pandemic on August 30. Roque said President Duterte approved the recommendation of the Interagency Task Force to extend the current travel restrictions in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, United Arab Emirates, Oman, Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia from September 1 to 5 of this year. The extended travel ban also came amid the threat posed by the more infectious Delta COVID-19 variant that was first detected in India. On Tuesday, the total number of COVID-19 infections neared the 2 million mark with 13,827 new infections. The country's case toll rose to 1,989,857, of which 145,662 are active cases. The death toll increased to 33,448 after 118 more people died, while recoveries climbed to 1.8 million mark with 16,759 new survivors.
Meanwhile, the World Health Organization also said it is now monitoring a new coronavirus variant known as Mu, which was first identified in Colombia in January. Mu, known scientifically as B1621, has been classified as a variant of interest, the global health body said in its weekly pandemic bulletin. The WHO also said the variant has mutations that indicate a risk of resistance to vaccines and stressed that further studies were needed to better understand it. The Mu or MU variant has a constellation of mutations that indicate potential properties of immune escape that, according to the bulletin, there is widespread concern over the emergence of new virus mutations as infection rates are ticking up globally again, with the highly transmissible Delta variant taking hold, especially among the unvaccinated and in regions where antivirus measures have been relaxed. All viruses, including SARS-CoV-2 that causes COVID-19, mutate over time, and most mutations have little or no effect on the properties of the virus. But certain mutations can impact the properties of a virus and influence how easily it spreads, the severity of the disease it causes, and its resistance to vaccines, drugs, and other countermeasures. The WHO currently identifies 4 COVID-19 variants of concern, including Alpha, which is present in 193 countries, and Delta, present in 170 countries. 5 variants, including Mu, are to be monitored. After being detected in Colombia, Mu has since been reported in other South American countries and in Europe.
The Department of Interior and local government welcomed the 30-day preventive suspension imposed on the barangay officials involved in the Caracol and mass gathering event in Barangay Santiago in General Trias, Cavite last month, and commended the local government unit's immediate action and investigation after the incident. DILG spokesperson Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya said after Interior Secretary Eduardo M. Anio's order to conduct a fact-finding investigation, General Trias Mayor Antonio Ferrer approved the SP's recommendation to issue a 30-day preventive suspension to Barangay Santiago Punong, Barangay Rolando Pagkaliwangan, and Barangay Kagawad's Joey Loyola, Francisco Solis, and Ferdinand Perdito. In a viral video posted on social media, hundreds of residents of Barangay Santiago participated in a caracol procession and mass gathering along Arnaldo Highway, deliberately violating the minimum public health standards, such as wearing of a face mask and face shield and physical distancing, while the LGU was under the general community quarantine with heightened restrictions classifications. Malaya expressed hope that the incident served as a warning to all barangay officials that the DILG will not tolerate any violation of minimum public health standards during the pandemic.
Staying in the country, the House of Representatives approved the third reading House Bill number 8895, exempting critical medical supplies, including medical oxygen, from any and all taxes, following a request from President Duterte for Congress to pass such a measure. The House approved the measure with 202 yes votes and no negative votes or abstentions. The bill exempts the manufacture, importation, sale, and donation of critical medical supplies and essential goods during public health emergencies. The bill also mandates the Secretary of Health and Secretary of Finance to draw up the list of goods subject to exemption. The exemptions will require the declaration of a public health emergency by the President after December 2023, but will be in effect until then. Albay Representative Joey Salceda filed House Bill 9958, or the COVID-19 Supplies Tax Exemption Act, in response to President Duterte's request to Congress to provide tax relief to manufacturers of medical-grade oxygen. During his pre-recorded talk to the people, President Duterte said the country really needs a lot of medical-grade oxygen supply, which he described as a vital component amid the COVID-19 pandemic.
The COVID-19 infection rate among students of limited face-to-face classes nationwide is very low and has no fatality reported. Commission on Higher Education Chair Prospero de Vera III said Tuesday all students who were infected did not need hospitalization and were asymptomatic. There are more than 9,000 students physically attending classes in 118 approved medical and health institutions. Let's take a look.
Hindi, kasi less than 1% is very, very low. If you look at the national data, it's very, very low compared to the infection rate in outside of the universities, and all the students were asymptomatic, meaning nobody among the students was hospitalized. So that is very, very low. That is in a sense that is safe compared to other activities that individuals do.
Apart from the strict implementation of minimum public health standards, De Vera said 76% of students and 95% of faculty personnel reporting physically are vaccinated. President Rodrigo Duterte has yet to decide on the CHED proposal for limited face-to-face classes for courses like in the engineering, hospitality, and maritime fields. De Vera said students want to go back to school, graduate, take up licensure examinations, and eventually find jobs. As for the appeal to postpone the licensure examinations for medical courses, De Vera emphasized that the safety of examinees must be prioritized.
The city government of Manila Today started bringing its coronavirus disease or COVID-19 vaccination drive to health centers. A total of 45 health centers in the city's 6 districts will start administering COVID-19 jabs for those in the A1 or medical frontliners, A2 senior citizens, A3 persons with comorbidities, A4 frontliners in essential sectors, and A5 indigents priority groups. Manila Mayor Francisco Isko Moreno Dumagoso said the following health centers will open vaccination against COVID-19. District 1, Doña Aurora, Quezon, Barangay Fugoso, Magsaysay, Dagupan, Tondo, Foreshore, Parola, 3, Posadas, Smoky Mountain, Velasquez, and Vitas. In District 2, Atangdela, Rama, Aurora, Barangay Obrero, Palomar, Tayabas, and Tondo Health Centers. District 3, V. Fugoso, Lanuza, Dimasalang, San Nicolas, and San Sebastian. District 4, Earnshaw, Luz Vominda, Belmonte, Calabash, Domingo, Santiago, Dapitan, Maria Clara, Paltok, and F. Legarda. District 5, Rosario Reyes, Paco, Pedro Hill, Icasiano, San Andres, Buhay Mahalaga, Intramuros, and Corazon Aquino, Calic, and Baseco. In District 6, Bagong Barangay, Esperanza, Isidro, Mendoza, A.H. Lacson, J. Vicencio, Bacood, and San Miguel. The city government has allotted 1,500 vaccine doses for each district that will be distributed to these health centers. In an announcement, the city government also reminded its residents that walk-ins are now allowed in the health centers and at its 4 mall sites, the SM Lazaro, Manila, Robinson's Place, Manila, and Lucky Chinatown Mall. However, walk-ins are still not allowed in the city's drive-through vaccination site at the Quirino Grandstand. Meanwhile, no walk-ins are allowed in vaccination centers in 10 schools assigned for the second dose vaccination. The city's COVID vaccination sites operate from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And the city is also administering the second dose of COVID-19 jabs today for those who received their first dose on August 11. Individuals who are waiting for their second dose of COVID jabs are advised to wait for a text message from the Manila COVAX for the scheduled time and date of their vaccination.
As the capital city, Manila, tallied 253 new COVID-19 cases on Tuesday, it released an announcement for the hiring of more contact tracers. The city's Public Employment Service Office posted on Tuesday that it is hiring from the Department of Labor and Employment tulong pangkabuhayan sa ating disadvantaged or displaced worker contact tracers. Those interested may register through a link that can be found at www.facebook.com/Peso City of Manila. After registration, a Peso facilitator will confirm the application before asking for the following requirements: a personal data sheet with 2x2 photos, original copy of barangay certificate for employment, medical certificate with antigen urinalysis, complete blood count and x-ray results, photocopy of valid identification card with ID number, a completed tupad form, and a letter of intent. School ID and National Bureau of Investigation clearance will not be accepted as identification documents. Applicants should be a resident of Manila between 18 and 59 years old and has not availed of the TUPAD program yet.
And the news continues here on ASEAN in Focus. We'll be right back.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights. Sharpen your instincts for smart decision making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business from vision to action.
Iba't ibang sakuna at kalamidad ang nararanasan ng bansa. Kapag may banta ng panganib, kailangang maging alerto at kung kailangang lumikas ay magtungo sa ligtas na lugar. Bilang paghahanda sa mga ganitong pagkakataon, mahalaga na may gobag na dadalhin ang pamilya. Narito ang dapat na nilalaman ng gobag ng isang pamilyang handa. Mahalagang dokumento sa selyadong lalagyan, flashlight, kandila, posporo at silbato, radyo na may bago at ekstrang baterya, first aid kit kasama ang panlunas sa lagnat, LBM, sugat at iba pa. Ang mga gamot na regular na iniinom ng pamilya. Magagamit para sa mga sanggol, bata, matatanda at may kapansanan, pera at mga barya. Pagkain na madaling ihanda, di na kailangang lutuin at sapat para sa 3 araw. Inuming tubig sa saradong lalagyan at sapat para sa 3 araw. Telepono, power bank at charger. Lubid, lumang dyaryo, matitibay na lalagyan, damit, kapote, bota at mga sanitary supplies, sleeping bag o banig at mga kumot. Suriin ang mga laman ng gobag kada 3 buwan at palitan ang mga laman nito na malapit ng masira. Ilagay ang gobag sa lugar na madali itong makita at makuha sa oras ng sakuna.
Welcome back to the program. An elderly Filipina and a Filipino theater actor were the latest victims of anti-Asian hate in the United States, the Philippine Consulate General in New York reported Tuesday. The separate incidents took place on August 29 and 30, prompting the consulate to issue another warning to the Filipino community in New York to exercise vigilance in public spaces, especially the subway. The elderly Filipina was shoved down the stairs of a subway station in Rego Park, Queens, while the theater actor was spat on by an individual and subjected to racist insults while on a subway train in Manhattan. Consul General Elmer Cato said the elderly Filipina, whose identity was kept confidential, was taken to the hospital for treatment. The incident was reported to the consulate by a Filipino nurse who came to the Filipina's aid when she fell down the stairs on the morning of August 30. Our Good Samaritan stayed with her until police arrived and later provided us with details of what happened. He told us he could not control his tears on his way to work. It could have been my mom, he said, Cato shared. No other details were provided about the theater actor. Cato again called on all members of the Filipino community in New York to remain vigilant, especially when outside their residences and when taking public transport.
In other news, repairs on the BRP Gregorio del Pilar, which was damaged after a groundbreaking incident in 2018, are expected to be completed this month, according to a Philippine Navy official. Now, the dry docking and other related repairs of BRP Gregorio del Pilar, or PS-15, are expected to be completed later in the month of September, that according to Philippine Navy spokesperson Commander Benjo Negranza in a message to the Philippine News Agency when he was asked for updates regarding the ship. One of the ship's 2 variable pitch propellers was damaged along with its propeller hub after its grounding off Hasa-Hasa Shoal in August of 2018. The Philippine Navy earlier said difficulties in procuring parts and the ongoing pandemic have moved the completion of the repairs of the BRP Gregorio del Pilar to the later part of 2021. And as this developed, the BRP Andres Bonifacio or the PS-17, the sister ship of BRP Gregorio del Pilar and the BRP Ramon Alcaraz, is now mission ready after its maintenance and repair period.
In Thailand, the CCSA has eased COVID-19 restrictions on certain businesses and activities, including restaurants, shopping malls, beauty salons, massage parlors, and parks in the 29 dark red zones starting from 1st of September. Let's take a look.
The CCSA has also eased restrictions on certain businesses and activities, including restaurants, shopping malls, beauty salons, massage parlors, and parks in the 29 dark red zones starting from the 1st of September, which will be this Wednesday. And you have an infographic there from NBT. So indoor, air-conditioned restaurants will be allowed to resume dine-in services at 50% capacity, while those without air conditioning can resume dine-in services at 75% capacity. And malls, shopping centers, community malls, convenience stores, and similar establishments will be able to be open until 8 p.m. And beauty salons, barber shops, massage shops will be permitted to open, but massage shops may only provide foot massages. Parks, sports fields, and outdoor exercise places can open on the 1st of September, and all venues must implement the highest COVID-19 prevention measures. I'm sure that many of you, the English language audience, have been waiting for these lifting of restrictions, which will be effective on the 1st of September, including parks, including malls as well. The curfew, however, remains between 9 p.m. to 4 a.m., while tutoring schools, cinemas, spas, amusement parks, fitness centers, swimming pools, and convention centers will remain closed. So please note that the curfew would remain in the month of September during 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. in the dark red zone provinces, which includes Bangkok.
Staying in Thailand, the Civil Aviation Authority there plans to allow the resumption of air travel in the country's COVID-19 dark red zones or areas from today. According to the airports of Thailand, domestic air travel will resume in dark red zones, but with some restrictions. Again, let's listen in.
In terms of air travel, the Civil Aviation Authority of Thailand, or CAT, plans to allow the resumption of domestic air travel in the country's dark red zone, including Bangkok, from the 1st of September as well, this Wednesday, after the CCSA announced the permission for inter-provincial travel in this area. So according to the Airports of Thailand, or AOT, domestic air travel will resume with some restrictions. Air passengers will still have to comply with the various restrictions imposed by destination airports, ranging from the use of some tracking mobile apps and full vaccination certificates to show about the COVID-19 test results of the passenger. Airlines are also allowed to increase the load factor to 70% from 50% to help lower the airfare. In-flight food and drinks are still prohibited. Most airlines have announced that they are returning to service from the 1st of September already. You can check with their website, the websites of commercial airlines in Thailand. However, passengers need to check the confirmed schedule, as the resumption of flights may be on selected routes and selected dates.
The family of the U.S. journalist Danny Fenster appealed Tuesday for his release by Myanmar authorities as they marked his 100th day of imprisonment by the Yangon military regime. Fenster is believed to have contracted COVID-19 during his detention, family members said during a conference call with American journalists. He appeared to be suffering from brain fog and a loss of taste and smell during his last call with family members August 1st, but had not been tested, his mother, Rose Fenster, said. His mother said there has been only limited communication with him in Myanmar, even as efforts are made by the U.S. Embassy and others to secure his freedom. She said, "It's been a tough 100 days. It's hard to believe it's 100 days, but we are grateful for our community's support." The managing editor of the Frontier Myanmar news outlet, Fenster, has been under investigation under a law criminalizing dissent that carries a maximum 3-year jail sentence. Danny's brother, Brian Fenster, added that the journalist was not an activist or even a working reporter, but someone who was sitting behind a desk. The journalist's father, Buddy Fenster, said he was optimistic about the prospects for his son's release.
Meanwhile, China's special envoy for Asian affairs has wrapped up an unannounced week-long visit to Myanmar. That included discussions with its junta leader on the country's political future, according to Beijing on Tuesday. Myanmar has been in political chaos since the military ousted Aung San Suu Kyi's government in February, launching a bloody crackdown on dissent. International efforts to stem the violence have failed to yield results, with the European Union accusing junta allies, Russia and China, of blocking efforts at the UN Security Council to impose an arms embargo. Special Envoy Sun Guoxiang met junta leader Min Aung Hlaing and exchanged views on the political landscape in Myanmar, according to a statement released by Beijing's embassy in Myanmar. China supports Myanmar's efforts to restore social stability and resume democratic transformation at an early date, it said. The statement on Sun's August 21 to 28 visit didn't mention any meeting with the shadowy government or the shadow government of lawmakers from Suu Kyi's ousted party, who insist they are Myanmar's legitimate authority. Beijing enjoys exceptional leverage over Myanmar and has so far refused to label the military action a coup.
A total of 31 Filipinos from Afghanistan safely arrived in the Philippines on Tuesday, while 7 are still waiting for repatriation, the Department of Foreign Affairs said. The 31 are part of the group evacuated from Kabul to Islamabad, Pakistan, and flew home via a special flight from Doha, Qatar. In its latest bulletin, the agency also confirmed the evacuation of 1 Filipino from the South Central Asian nation on August 30, who is now in Islamabad awaiting his flight home. Since the Taliban took power, 188 Filipinos have been evacuated from the country through the help of various foreign governments, including the United States, the United Kingdom, and Indonesia. There are 23 remaining Filipinos in the country, but only 7 of them have requested government repatriation, as most of them opted to stay due to various reasons, mostly work. In any case, DFA said those with an emergency may continue to reach the Philippine embassy in Pakistan, which has jurisdiction over Afghanistan.
Now, the Taliban may reimpose its more extremist ideas and try to stop Afghans from leaving after the United States completed its withdrawal. That, according to Raffaello Pantucci, a senior fellow at the S. Rajaratnam School of International Studies in Singapore. The U.S. military has completed its withdrawal from Afghanistan to end a brutal 20-year war, one that started and ended with the hardline Islamist Taliban in power, despite billions of dollars spent trying to rebuild the conflict-racked country. Take a look.
Afghanistan's link to the world is incredibly important because, it is incredibly aid dependent, and that aid comes from foreign countries, and managers and other people need to oversee the delivery of that aid. And they're the ones who are really going to be using this airport. Otherwise, you have to use very complicated land links through very dangerous parts and remote parts of the country to try to get to the capital. So it's very important that Kabul airport is opened up again to help the Afghan economy get moving. And we don't really know what's going to happen next. Sort of as the media's glare slowly pulls back from Afghanistan and it sort of moves down the ranks of, issues in the news order, I think you'll start to see them starting to reimpose some of the more extremist. I think you're going to start to see a real emphasis being put by the government on trying to figure out ways of, through either coercion or, or intimidation of some sort, to try to get people to stay. Because I think a lot of the people who are probably leaving are, the managerial class, the kind of people who actually help run the country. And if the Taliban doesn't have any of those people left, they're going to really struggle to rebuild the national. You can see that the organization probably hasn't shed many of its fundamental ideas, and will continue to be pretty, fundamentalist in its outlook. But at the same time is being pushed by the pragmatic necessities of governance to actually trying to, figure out some sort of political accommodation. So at the moment, we don't really know much more than we knew before, frankly. But I think what we can see is an organization edging forwards, trying to figure out how it is going to rule the country. Context, if we continue to see a lot of people congregating around Kabul airport, if we continue to see internationals occasionally appearing there and potentially even seeing flights, I think the Islamic State will have an invested interest in trying to attack it once again, because if the airport does get moving again, it will be the beginning of some sort of recognition that the Taliban are able to govern the country. And the IS will want to continue to undermine the Taliban's authority. And so targeting the airport would continue to make sense. Having said that, there are many other targets that the Islamic State could try to go for. So it's not clear to me that the airport will be the same kind of a obvious target or most obvious target than that we had previously when you had the sort of glare of international media on it. Now I think you'll see a more diffuse threat picture from the Islamic State in particular in Afghanistan.
Since their stunningly swift takeover of Afghanistan in August, the Taliban leadership has sought a rebranding from the notorious zealotry of 1996 to 2001 regime and voiced hope for a stable relationship with the United States. Likely underlying the Taliban stance is the harsh reality that they must now run one of the world's poorest countries, where foreign assistance led by the U.S. accounted for 75% of public expenditure in 2019. Since the former insurgents took control of the capital, Kabul, on August 15, Western nations have stopped direct payments, and the United States has frozen nearly $9.5 billion in central bank assets.
Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh has signed official telegram number 1108/CDTTG requesting provincial and municipal people's committee to strengthen COVID-19 prevention and control during the upcoming national public holiday. This year's National Day on September 2 falls on Thursday. Thus, employees will have 2 days off on Thursday and Friday plus the weekend. As the COVID-19 pandemic has not been fully controlled, especially in southern localities, while the number of community infection cases has risen over the past days. The upcoming 4-day holiday may increase the risk of contracting or spreading the virus. From that perspective, the government chief task chairpersons of provincial and municipal people's committees to uphold the sense of responsibility for the ultimate goal of protecting people's health and lives, continue serious and effective implementation of preventive measures. In localities where social distancing order is imposed, authorities shall have to strengthen the enforcement of the order, request people to stay where they are, and strictly handle those who deliberately violate regulations on COVID-19 prevention and control. Authorities must ensure social security, social order, and safety to help people rest assured, as well as people's access to health services. For other localities, authorities must ensure serious enforcement of preventive measures, resolutely halt festivals involving large gatherings of people, entertainment and venues, and tourist sites. Frontline forces shall have to sustain vigilance to timely detect and handle emerging pandemic-related issues. The Prime Minister Pham ordered. And ASEAN in Focus will be right back.
Tropical cyclone o bagyo. Ang bagyo ay isang uri ng lagay na panahon na nagdudulot ng malalakas at mabibilis na hangin at pag-ulan na maaaring maging sanhi ng matitinding pagbaha, daluyong ng dagat at pag-uho ng lupa. Narito ang mga dapat gawin bago dumating ang bagyo. Una, alamin ang balita ukol sa panahon at mga anunsyong pangkaligtasan. Alamin ang plano ng komunidad sa pagbibigay babala at paglikas. Suriin ang bahay at kumpunihin ang mga mahina at sirang bahagi. Ihanda ang gobag na naglalaman ng mga pangangailangan ng pamilya. Ilikas ang mga alagang hayop sa ligtas na lugar. Kapag inabisuhan ang kinauukulan, mabilis na lumikas sa itinakdang evacuation center. Narito naman ang mga dapat gawin habang may bagyo. Una, maging mahinahon. Manatili sa loob ng bahay o evacuation center at makinig sa pinakabagong balita at taya ng panahon. Patayin ang main switch ng kuryente at valve ng tubig. Gumamit ng flashlight o emergency lamp. Maging maingat sa paggamit ng kandila o gasera. Umiwas sa mga salaming bintana. Ito naman ang dapat gawin pagkatapos ng bagyo. Hintayin ang abiso ng kinauukulan na ligtas ng bumalik sa tahanan. Umiwas sa mga natumbang puno, nasirang gusali at linya ng kuryente. Huwag gumala upang hindi maabala ang mga emergency services. Siguraduhing walang basa o nakababad na outlet o kagamitan bago buksan ang linya ng kuryente. Itapon ang mga naipong tubig sa lata, paso at gulong upang hindi pamahayan ng lamok.
That I was born for you. It was written in the stars. It's as if the powers of the universe conspired to make you mine. I bless the day that I was born for you.
Hello, it's David Pomerantz here, and you've got to believe in magic. You know that, right? So please catch me on Letters and Music this coming Saturday, 1 to 2 p.m., only here on Net 25. Oh, yeah.
In a world that's full of strangers, you've got to believe in magic.
Welcome back. Low-cost airline Cebu Pacific, or CEB, will resume passenger flight operations 6 times weekly or daily except Saturday beginning September 1 or today. In a statement, CEB Chief Commercial Officer Sander Lau said there is latent travel demand and the airline remains cautiously optimistic as it boosts operations where it is most needed. Hong Kong authorities imposed a ban until September 11 on Philippine Airlines or PAL passenger flights from Manila after 3 of its passengers tested positive for coronavirus disease or COVID-19 upon arrival, testing in the Chinese territory last August 27. With this, PAL will only be mounting passenger flights from Hong Kong to Manila for 2 weeks. Michelle Lim of CEB Corporate Communications told the Philippine News Agency that while the carrier's cargo flights to Hong Kong were unhampered, its last commercial flight there was mounted last April. Currently, CEB operates passenger flights to Nagoya, Osaka, Seoul, Incheon, Singapore, Taipei, and Tokyo, Narita, that according to Lim. CEB also regularly mounts bayanihan flights from Dubai to Manila to ferry overseas Filipino workers.
The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas forecasts a higher liquefied petroleum gas prices to push domestic inflation to between 4.1% to 4.9% this month. In a Viber message to journalists on Tuesday, BSP Governor Benjamin Jokno said other upside risks to inflation for this month are higher prices of electricity in areas being serviced by the Manila Electric company, upticks in food items, and the weakening of the peso against the US dollar. Jokno said these factors, however, are expected to be countered partly by the decline in domestic petroleum and rice prices. Average inflation to date stands at 4.4%. Monetary authorities forecast inflation to remain elevated, with the full-year average forecast at 4.1%.
Vietnam's goods exports in January to August period soared by 21.2% to 212.5 billion US dollars, according to the General Statistics Office. Of the figure, export value of the state and foreign invested sectors reached 55.69 US dollars, or 55.69 billion US dollars, and 156.86 billion US dollars, up 10.5% and 25.5% respectively. As many as 30 export items gained export turnover of at least $1 billion each, with 6 of which reporting turnover of more than 10 billion US dollars. The US remained the largest importer of Vietnamese goods with 62.2 billion US dollars, up 32.5%, followed by China, $32.7 billion, up 19.8%. The EU, $26.1 billion US dollars, up 14.5%. ASEAN, $18.4 billion, up 23.3%. And the Republic of Korea, $13.9 billion, up 9.9%. And Japan, $13.5 billion US dollars, up 8.6%. During the reviewed period, Vietnam's import value hit 216.26 billion US dollars, up 33.8%. China was the largest exporter with 72.5 billion US dollars, up 47.1%. It was followed by the Republic of Korea of 34.6 billion, up 20.5%. ASEAN, 28.2 billion, up 47.4%. Japan, 14.5 billion, up 13.7%. And the EU, 11 billion, up 17.1%. And the US, 10.4 billion, up 12.3%.
Asian markets were mixed Wednesday as investors tried to assess whether the global recovery will be resilient enough to withstand the fast-spreading Delta COVID variant, with optimism being tested by the stuttering rollout of vaccines and a spike in infections in some countries. China's drive to tighten its grip on the world's #2 economy with a swath of new regulations for private enterprises is also weighing on sentiment, while there are also concerns that valuations may have run too hot as several markets sit at record or multi-year highs. Federal Reserve boss Jerome Powell's indication Friday that the central bank will take it easy in winding back its ultra-loose monetary policy and even more cautious in hiking interest rates has helped fuel a healthy run-up this week. In early Asian trade, Tokyo, Singapore, Seoul, and Wellington rose, but Hong Kong, Shanghai, Sydney, Taipei, Manila, and Jakarta were in negative territory.
From endangered freshwater dolphins drowned by discarded fishing nets to elephants scavenging through rubbish, migratory species are among the most vulnerable to plastic pollution, according to a UN report on the Asia-Pacific region on Tuesday, calling for greater action to cut waste. Plastic particles have infiltrated even the most remote and seemingly pristine regions of the planet, with tiny fragments discovered inside fish in the deepest recesses of the ocean and peppering Arctic sea ice. The paper by the UN's Convention on the Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals, or CMS, focused on the impacts of plastic on freshwater species in rivers and on land animals and birds, which researchers said were often overlooked. victims of humanity's expanding trash crisis. It said that because these creatures encounter different environments, including industrialized and polluted areas, they are likely at risk of higher exposure to plastics and associated contaminants. Researchers cited estimates that 80% of the plastic that ends up in the oceans originates on land, with rivers thought to play a key role in carrying debris out to sea. The UN report highlights two regions, the Ganges and the Mekong River basins, which together contribute an estimated 200,000 tons of plastic pollution to the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean every year. Dolphins also can become entangled and trapped underwater by old nets, with endangered Irrawaddy dolphins and Ganges River dolphins at particular risk. On land, Asian elephants had also been observed scavenging on rubbish dumps in Sri Lanka and eating plastic in Thailand, according to the report. Thank you, Charlene, for keeping me company as always. And Vietnam Day is coming up soon. Happy National Day.
Thank you, Alma. Yes, that's going to be tomorrow.
Yes.
And that is latest news in the Southeast Asian nations. Stay updated about the ASEAN region. I'm Charlene Navaja, and we live in interesting times.
And we'll see you back tomorrow. I'm Alma Angeles. We live in interesting times.
We know that this is a scary time for all of us.
The coronavirus